Welcome villagers to the village hidden in the stories. I'm your guide, Kage, and I hope that you like the video that we have for you today, which is What If Naruto Was in the Spider-Verse Part 2. This one's kind of a late Part 2, but hey, I'm gonna be trying to post way more on this channel. Well, in general, actually, mainly because for my other videos, I haven't been seeing a lot of views on them, but I'm still going to be trying, just mainly being consistent and posting more. Another thing is, I hope you like this video, and I hope you share it with your friends, because that will help me out, and you never know, they might like what ifs as well. Another thing is, comment to help me come up with new ideas for my videos. And without further ado, let's get into this amazingly crafted what if.
Peter used to tell me how he always loved to speak his thoughts in a journal. And well, now my mom is making me keep one so she can see what I do on my villain fights. It's been crazy since me and Miles saved our interdimensional friends. My powers are fully back, and possibly even more powerful than ever. Miles is the new Spider-Man, and I think he is finding it hard to juggle everything we do as heroes. Not to mention Kurama is taking longer naps now. But hey, the furball was always one to sleep anyway, who cares all that much? But for anyone reading, even if it's just mom again, I'm fine, and I'm gonna make sure me and Miles get through our hero biz. A tall blonde figure ran on the rooftops, being followed by a fully masked man swinging on what could only be described as spider webs. The two closely moved together even if they weren't using the same modes of transportation. Yo Miles, how long do you think we got? The swinging boy landed on the side of the building and started to crawl following the blonde boy. I don't know, Naruto. We probably won't make it though. Naruto would stop at the edge of the building as Miles moved to stand next to him. In the light, both boys' costumes could be seen better. First, the blonde boy was wearing baggy black pants. The pants extended to his crimson cloth-like belt that flowed down to his knees. The midsection then went onto his torso, which was covered by a mesh shirt. The mesh was covered by a long-sleeve crimson jacket that grew into a cloak that went to his lower legs. The crimson jacket had intricate designs on it made up of flames, lightning, water, and wind designs, all over which were made with black tint to match the darkness of the cloak. Besides the design, the cloak had the kanji for fire shadow, and then lower down was Sage of Toads. Going further up to his shoulders was a necklace that had a blue crystal in it, which was also connected to the blonde's face mask that accented his black and blue eyes. The mask covered his mouth and nose, reminiscent of one of the boy's teachers. The boy had visible seals on his palms, hands, and arms, as well as some moon-seen ones on his upper thighs. Finally, to end his suit, then Naruto had a headband on his forehead keeping his bangs up, as well as black ninja sandals for himself. Moving to the spider-themed boy, Miles was in a similar suit to his last one. The black suit was accented by red, but now alongside the red was purple. The purple was in remembrance of the boy's uncle, and the color extended to his hood, which was connected to the suit. The slick style suit had a spider emblem on the chest and a similar design on the back, both being half red and half purple. Miles and Naruto looked to each other before jumping off of the building. The masked brunette shot a line of web to catch himself, but the blonde had stayed on his fall. Miles looked back to his friend unworried, as he knew how the boy did things. Naruto tapped his covered shoulder, unsealing a chained kuni. He threw the object past his friend, making it stuck directly to a building past the boy. The blonde quickly yanked the chain and sent himself flying. A roar of excitement came from the blonde as his friend followed after him. As the two swing together, Miles started to speak. So my answer might have been wrong. It looks like we got some time. The boy showed his phone to that blonde before putting it away and doing a swing to the right. Naruto only followed and tried to catch up before swinging beside Miles again. Well, our old friend Doc really shouldn't want revenge. I mean, what is she gonna do with no place to make her gadgets? The boy said boredly, Fallon, but not paying attention to the spider beside him. Well, my dimension-hopping friend. Seems like she called us out for a reason. Knowing her, especially what happened last time, it can't be good. Miles landed on a building as Naruto caught himself on the wall of that building. Well, why tell us to meet here of all places? Both boys look down at an alleyway, closely inspecting it. She doesn't seem like the person to just call us out in a secluded area. Naruto grabbed the ledge for spinning himself next to Miles. Yeah, well, like I said. The brunette turned to the blonde with a masked smile. We got time. So if she did plan something, we can scope out the area. Naruto sighed before standing straight up, still facing his friend. And you're sure we can get back to school before first period? Miles just waved the boy question off before jumping down and swinging into the alleyway. The blonde followed the brunette after a few seconds, finding him looking for something. Fire Shadow. You sense anything in here? Naruto crossed his arms before walking up to Miles. It's sage now, remember? The masked boy only responded with a laugh before tapping the wall again. I know. But I can't forget how Pete called you Fart Shadow that one time. Wait. The boy would turn to the blonde quickly. Is that why you changed your name? After he said this, Naruto turned away, not looking at his friend. This would get a full-blown laugh from the boy. It totally is the reason you changed your name. More chuckles came from the black-cladded hero before the blonde had activated his Rin Sharingan. That's weird. Miles stopped as he jumped next to Naruto, trying to see what he was seeing. What is it? The blonde didn't answer and just started to walk to a different part of the alley. There is an area below this alley. I can see and sense an abundance of electricity as well as other energies under this place. But I don't know how to access it. Naruto turned back to Miles, who had a serious stance now. There doesn't seem to be anything connecting the area to this alley. No energy is making its way up here. The masked blonde walked to his friend, crossing his arms once more. Well then, how do we get in? Naruto turned his head a bit at the question, not really having a clear answer. The boy fully turned around as his special eyes looked closer. I'll use one of my old Sensus Meijiku abilities to phase us to the bottom. Miles would raise his eyebrow, which to anyone but Naruto would be unseen. You mean you're gonna use a power you have been trained with? It would be the brunette's turn to cross his arms as he looked at his friend. What are the problems with your plan? Naruto shrugged before grabbing Miles' shoulder. Oh yeah. The one thing is, if I don't time it right, I'll chop both of us in half. The blonde shrugged after this was said. The boy also didn't notice his friend had a scared look in his eye. Anyway, let's go. The two quickly fell through the alley floor. As they finally landed in a dark area, both would be glad they weren't chopped in half. Shaken a bit, Miles would grab his friend's shirt. Dude. Never do that again. No promises. Naruto said before walking off to dutch the place. Miles jumped to the ceiling, following his friend's lead, still a bit shook from the fall. After a few seconds, the masked blonde flipped a switch. The room became filled with light as Miles and Naruto began to re-examine the place. What they saw was what could be described as a hidden lab. There seems to be multiple cells for different organisms, most of which were open wide while some were closed. Thankfully, the two saw all of them were empty, nothing inside but old marks. Some were claw marks and others seemed to be footprints. The boys went into the main part of the lab, finding experimental portal tech. Naruto stepped to the control panel of the small device and stared closely at it. This must be what they started with. The blonde turned to the new Spider-Man after examining the tech. Well, if that's what they started with, then what's Doc planning to do with it? Naruto only sighed, having already thought of ways the woman could use the tech. The boy then activated his Rin Sharingan again, trying to put together the crazy lady's plan with what they had right now. But no matter what he could put together, it all ended up blank. The lady was one of the best scientists in the world, not some woman obsessed with living in another world. She was smart and could easily make hundreds of plans with the portals. But knowing her, Naruto didn't think she would ever use the tech for anything much. And he didn't want to mess with the tech either, no matter how much he wanted to see Gwen and Penny again. I don't know. No matter what I can put together, it doesn't seem like she would ever use experimental portal tech like this. Especially when she knows it could destroy her as well as everyone in New York. Sure, she worked for Kingpin. But she's not that out of her mind. Even if she is a bit crazy. Naruto and Miles silently sighed as they looked around once more, not finding anything else in the small places. The two were about to leave until a stained green tentacle-like appendage rushed past them, crashing into and cracking the wall. Well, there's our doctor. Miles moved to the right as Naruto slid to the left. The tentacle was similar to 3 others that came out the same hallway. When did you get her, Doc? What didn't want to leave us an ink trail to find ye? Naruto smirked under his mask before rushing at the woman who slowly walked out of the shadows. Dude, you really need to come up with better jokes. They're so dry. Miles said before following his friend into battle. I thought it was good. Naruto gave his signature grin, happy that his villain thought it was a good joke. Really? The woman smirked before blocking Naruto and Miles' attacks with her tentacles. Yeah? If you were going for annoying like the old spider. The blonde frowned before trying to spin kick Doc Ock, which failed as she moved her tentacle to sweat him out the air. Note: I'm making Naruto pull his punches kinda like what Peter does, even though he could very well destroy all of New York at his current level. Which will eventually turn into being able to destroy a country in the next of this what if, and possibly even more past that, maybe solar level. He only uses a fraction of that and only uses his base chakra, which is why he won't be using his better attacks. But in this what if you will see him use Kurama's Chakra 6 Path Sage mode and more. Because I will be having a villain at the level of him which will need both him and Miles to defeat. Note end. You really didn't need to bring Pete into this. Naruto got off of the wall he was in before charging a Rasengan and running at the woman. Miles was dodged from a tentacle before kicking another to the left and grabbing a third one to pull Doc Ock to him. The boy was quickly surprised when he had tried to hit the woman just to be met with a kick from her. The fourth and finally tentacle had been dealing with Naruto, who after a while just went through it with his blue orb-like attack. The Rasengan shredded through her tech as Naruto was able to kick the woman away from his friend. You good spider. Miles gave a nod before looking to the villain that had crashed to the wall. Said girl lifted herself up with her tentacles and started to ruthlessly swing her working one while her actual arms and legs were holding something the two heroes couldn't see. Using spider sense and ninja skills, the two were able to dodge the flurry of attacks. Then Naruto threw a kuni into Doc Ock's robotic tentacle, pinning it to the wall. The blonde did the same to her other tentacles while smirking under his mask. Looks like a good haul from fishing. Miles sighted his friend before responding. Really, dude? Naruto gave a shrug before walking next to the boy. So why tell us where you going, Miss Smartypants? You really want to know? She said, making the two wait for her to do something. Well, yeah, that's why I asked. The woman looked annoyed before pulling out a remote and pressing a button on it. Behind the two heroes, the experimental portal tech had turned on and made a small black hole. First of all, it was a trap. Second of all, I needed this. Doc Ock held up a capsule with what seemed to be moving black goop in it. The two boys were forced to hold on to something as more things flew into the black hole, making it grow in size and power. All of this for some goop. And how come you didn't see a trap coming, Sage? Naruto gave a shrug before talking while closely watching the person who got them into this mess. Well, I wasn't the one who usually figured out the traps. Miles gave an angry shout. I still blame you for this. And wait, she did this for some goop. Naruto only shrugged and would crouch a bit more, still keeping his stare on the woman who seemed to fully believe she would be scot-free. The hole in space was growing in size and power. Said force started to peel the boys off their surfaces. Both were only hanging on by one hand, and the black hole had started to take on the other items in the room. A few seconds later, Doc Ock had seen one of her tentacles being detached. She worried as her other robotic limbs followed as she tried to keep the capsule in her arms close. It should have stopped by now. It should have gone and blown up. The woman said, worry evident in her voice as she looked to the heroes. Well, it hasn't. Naruto responded, activating his Reni Sharingan. Damn it. It's about to though. And the discharge is gonna kill all of us. The blonde repositioned himself as he started to slide to the black hole against his will. Kurama. A quick response in the boy's mind surprised him as some red chakra started to flow off of him. I got yak hit. However, we need to worry about the others. Naruto gave a mental nod before taking control of the chakra. The chakra shaped to the form of a fox, even sprouting a chakra fox tail while Naruto grew more feral in looks. The blonde stretched out the chakra, covering his hand, warping it around Miles. The boy tried to do the same with the Doc Ock, but she soon was ripped off the wall by the black hole. As Naruto tried to grab her, he only was able to grab the capsule, leaving her to be taken in by the cosmic force. Only a few seconds after, the blonde quickly took Miles into his chakra as the black hole exploded, launching them both into a wall. Damn. That fucking hurt. The chakra surrounding the two disappeared as the both got up. The room they saw now was nothing like before. It was blown up, as it seemed the only thing that survived was them. Naruto repositioned himself as he picked up the capsule he and Miles had saved. The boys looked closely to the container, seeing the black goop inside move without trouble. What in the hell is this stuff? Naruto said while turning to Miles. The brunette couldn't respond as an alarm came from his phone. As the boy picked up said device, he turned it to Naruto. Bro, we got to go. We are going to be late again. Miles would rush up after saying this, having put his phone away. But what about this thing? As the blonde said this, Miles grabbed his arm and pulled them to the ceiling they had fallen through. We can just drop it off at our dorm. No point in worrying about it. If your mom finds out that we are late again, she will text mine. And then she's gonna kill me. Naruto grabbed Miles' shoulder while putting the capsule on his back. With a jump, the two were sent back up the ceiling after becoming intangible like before. After they reached the alley, they swung and ran on buildings, making their way back to their dorm. Miles landed on the side of the window, first going inside after seeing his friend land. After making sure the coast was clear, Naruto followed and put the capsule on the one desk in the room. The masked spider pressed the spitter in his chest, making his suit shift into a jacket. The boy quickly threw the jacket on his bed, trying to find his uniform. Naruto almost did the same as his suit just disappeared and his uniform appeared on him. The blonde's friend finally got her uniform, with the two nodding and rushing off to get to class. Short time skip. Naruto walked into lunch with a Yuan looking for his best friend. It only took a few seconds for the blonde to walk to their table to find the boy. As he sat down, he saw Miles on his phone, his attention practically locked on it. Yo, Miles. The boy looked up and smiled to his friend before dapping him up. What's up, Naruto? Your mom on you too? The blonde gave a sigh before both of them sat down, remembering the long talk he had with his mom. Yeah. She really tore into me about responsibility. And all that. It was a little lighter than usual now that she knows I'm Sage. The black-haired boy grabbed a fry from his plate before speaking. You figure out what that thing in the capsule is? Naruto stole a fry from Miles' plate and did not pay much attention. Nope. That thing is a mystery. Don't touch my fries, man. The black-haired boy said, annoyed. I can't wait to get out of here. Naruto shrugged before standing up. Maybe we will get lucky and a new villain will appear. And if not, well, who cares? The blonde was about to walk off before his name was called by his friend. The boy turned back with a questioning look under a calm and curious one. How do you juggle everything? Naruto shook his head a bit in response. I told you, Miles. You got to stop worrying and start flowing with what you got. You would also have a better time if you just told your parents what you are dealing with. The boy just deadpanned at that, not taking what his friend said as serious. Right. I'm still thinking on that. Naruto just nodded before walking off. I'ma get my lunch. I'll be right back. The blonde fully walked out of the lunchroom to get to his locker. After he got his bag, he noticed sounds coming from outside. This made the boy rush to the window, trying to find out what was going on. When he looked out the window, he saw a man in armor in the shape of a rhino. He became a bit confused. Okay, new rampaging villain. Miles doesn't need this on his plate right now. Sage can handle the small fry. Naruto tapped to seal his neck, making his uniform disappear, it being replaced by his hero costume. The blonde disappeared and reappeared outside on top of a nearby building. The boy quickly made his way and rushed after the mechanical rhino. Okay. You and Pete felt with a lot of rogues. Green Goblin, Sandman, Scorpion, Kingpin, Doc Ock, the Shocker. Hell, even the Wall and Wheel and some leader-known villains. Note, I'm putting the people they faced here because there is gonna be some villains they haven't dealt with that are really well known. I'm sure most of you could already tell what the black goop is. But if you don't, I'm not gonna spoil it. And note, but a guy in some sort of rhino exosuit. The boy jumped down to the next bill, gaining on his new adversary. This seems close enough. The blonde threw a chained kuni into the exosuit and pulled himself onto it. Hey ugly. The zoo is that way. The man inside the suit just locked up before moving to grab the boy. Fire shadow is just small spark. You won't take me in. Naruto struggled to get out the grip as the man stopped. Hey, you mind calling me by my new name? Also nice accent. The blonde finally got out of the grip before punching the armor to push the man back. Said armor only was pushed back a bit until then man inside scowled. Wow. You are one adorable rhino. Naruto quickly put his hands together creating a pulse symbol with his fingers. Multi-cage button. 10 shadow clones appeared next to the blonde before they all rushed at the rhino. So, what's your villain name? Iron Giant. Rampage. Oh, I know something simple like the rhino. Naruto gave a grin as he was saying all the names and running around his adversary. You may have numbers, but that won't change when the rhino crushed you. The blonde moved out the way of a punch. The fist was big enough to hit every part of his body as he landed on it. Wow. Stealing my name. You can't do that. What happens when I sue? The boy jumped away from another punch before starting to do hand signs in the air. When he finished the hand signs, he shot out a blast of water from his mouth. When the attack landed, the water had no effect and the blonde landed not 2 seconds after. Man, he has got some high defense. Naruto was finally hit full force by the rhino as he was sent flying. He wasn't able to go far as he was sent into a building. The rhino then charged at the downed blonde, carrying and slamming him through multiple buildings. Naruto, unable to focus, unsealed a blade from his right arm. The blade was reminiscing of the Kyubukiri no Bocho with its thick blade and how the long sword curved at the top. There was 6 holes in it, however. With no time for thought, the boy spun the sword and started dragging it behind the rampaging man. Naruto roared before pushing chakra into his legs. The blonde boy followed his blade and slammed his legs down, slowly finding something to push off of. Naruto roared again after finding his ground and pushing against the rhino. As the two pushed against each other, the blonde started to push the man back, getting the villain surprised. Then the boy completely threw the exosuited man into the air. Acting quick, Naruto grabbed his blade and readied himself. Probably shouldn't try to break the armor. It's evidence for the cops. Finally, the boy jumped up to the rhino's level and brought his sword up with him. Sorry, but I told you I would sue, didn't I? The blonde gave a grin, not letting the man respond to his joke, and then he slashed the rhino. Surprisingly, the sword wasn't able to go through the armor and it just slammed him into the floor. When Naruto landed and inspected the villain, he found him knocked out by the blow. The blonde put his blade back into his seal, making sure the officers that came shortly after the battle ended were able to take away the villain. Time skip a few hours. Naruto and Miles were finally able to end the day. Both boys talked as they went into their shared dorm. Hey Naruto. Miles said as he looked back to his friend, some worry in his voice. The blonde looked to his desk as he figured what the black-haired boy was going to say. Where is the capsule? The two looked back and forth to each other, somewhat expecting the thing to reappear. Damn it. Miles rushed to grab his jacket as Naruto threw off his tie. After a few seconds, they both were in their suits and rushing out the window. Naruto stormed across buildings as Miles swung after them, both in worry about what someone could do with the capsule if Doc Ock wanted it so bad before dying. Who do you think took it? The masked spider said with urgency in his voice. Naruto looked to the hero swinging beside him before responding. There's only one thief that I know would actually see the goop as anything but some random liquid. You mean? Miles sighed as he already figured out who the blonde was talking about. She really could be the only person that would do it. Question is if she was hired or just took an interest in the thing. The blonde dropped off the building before swinging with his friend. How are we gonna find her this time? She doesn't leave trails. Miles said, already becoming annoyed by the fact of who they would need to deal with. She could have been anywhere in New York by now. Naruto activated his Renny Sharingan before searching for any Seigunen of the girl. Black Cat mag not leave any physical trails. But that doesn't mean she doesn't leave energy trails. Miles smirked before running on the side of the building that he was running on top of. You still got a thing for her. Naruto blushed under his mask before jumping to a new building as he watched his friend follow him. How do you know about that? The spider-clad boy smiled under his mask before shooting a line of web towards the next building. Well, back when you were Fire Shadow, I was able to hear some things. There were tons of talks at the Daily Bugle of how you and the cat were a couple. That was mainly because you being around Spider-Man so much made you a menace in JJJ's eyes. The blonde grumbled silently, remembering how much him and Peter were on the news. Found her. Great. Miles responded quickly, swinging closely to Naruto. You still didn't answer my question. Naruto sighed before rushing in a specific direction, following Black Cat's trail. Shut up. Eventually the two were quickly following the girl, watching her jump onto different rooftops as she carried the capsule on her back. When they were close enough, Naruto closed one of his eyes. In reaction, his other eye started to bleed as he pushed chakra into it. The eye made a red and purple glow before the blonde put his attention on Miles. Spider-Man. Be ready to web her up. I'm gonna switch places with her. The spider hero stopped with a nod, ready at any time to capture the burglar. Naruto quickly forced more chakra into his eye, activating one of his bloodline jutsu. After a few seconds, the blonde disappeared, and in his place was the girl in black spandex and armor pads that accented her looks. The suit curved with her, and it seemed to have multiple parts intertwined into it. The black was accented by her white gauntlet-like gloves, which weren't bulky but were padded like the rest of her suit. The same white that made up her gloves made up her boots. Finally, the ends of her gloves, the tops of her boots, her belt and collar all had white fur on them, which also worked with her white hair, which was in a ponytail, as well as her black mask. Miles quickly webbed the girl up and stuck her to the wall. It didn't take too long for Naruto to get to the two landing on the building next to them. Okay, Black Cat, we need to talk. Seriousness lined the blonde's tone as he talked to the girl, not trying to focus on her beauty. Oh hey Tiger. She responded quickly. Didn't know you were still after me. Naruto blushed, leaving Miles to respond as quickly as the girl did. Sorry, but while I'm here you won't be able to trick my friend. Now talk. The girl gave a smile to the two, deciding what she should say before responding. So the new spider is here to save the day. Was that the reason the old one went after me instead of you? To keep you out of trouble? Well, Fire Shadow, I'm flattered. The white-haired girl smiled silently, still seemingly planning something. Anyway, what did you need? We need to know about the goop in the capsule. The black-haired boy responded quickly. Why did you steal it? Naruto looked at the two, still blushing. Black Cat gave a quick sigh, somewhat boredly, before speaking. If you must know. No, I don't have it anymore. Some people hired me with an offer I couldn't refuse. So I stole it from that dorm. Wait. The girl suddenly had a grin on her face, eyeing the blonde of the group. Don't tell me. Tiger, that was your school. The girl chuckled a bit before cueing to the blonde. Don't worry, I like him young. Naruto sighed as he gave a smirk while still blushing. You say as if you're not only 2 years older than me. The girl only smiled a bit. At least I'm out of school. I'm right here. The two looked to the spider hero before one blushed and the other smirked. Sorry, Spider. But Fire Sage here can't seem to control himself. Miles quickly sighed, getting between the two. Anyway, who hired you? The white-haired girl only smiled before tilting her head cutely. You know I can't tell you that. After that was said, Black Cat stopped talking altogether, only smiling at Naruto. The two heroes didn't have any clues on anything, and if she was able to fluster the blonde this much, it didn't seem like they had a chance to get any information. And Miles wasn't the interrogator of the group, so pretty much they were stuck. Which is what they thought for a few minutes, until then white-haired girl spoke once more. Unless Tiger would reveal his identity to me. The two heroes looked at each other for a few seconds before Sage stood up, losing his blush. Before the blonde could take off his lower mask, Miles had stopped him, grabbing his shoulder. Are you sure? Maybe the capsule has something on it that wouldn't let us to the guys who hired her. Naruto just gave a sigh before moving in his friend's arm. I already checked. There's nothing on it. This is probably the only way. The blonde turned to the girl with a questioning look. But here is what I want. Why do you need to know in the first place? The white-haired girl kept her smile as she began to speak. Well, I need to know who I will be dating. Miles sighed before walking next to his friend with something on his mind. You really attract some weird girls, man. Shut up. was the blonde quick response before taking off his mask. As the boy showed his face, Black Cat stared intensely. The girl noted his whisker marks on his cheeks that seemed to be birthmarks, but they also looked to give the boy more appeal to her. If she wasn't webbed up, she probably would have reached out to stroke them. What didn't surprise her was his different colored eyes, as they were easily visible with his mask only covering his mouth. As she kept her stare on him, she began to blush, imagining less than pure things, with the male being the main subject. I finally know where I've seen you before. You're Naruto Uzumaki, right? The girl's tone quickly became fan-like, covered in her excitement. I watch your playthroughs all. She quickly stopped blushing a bit before composing herself. Naruto would give his signature grin before putting his mask on again. So, who is your buyer? The white-haired girl gave a sigh before answering. It's more like buyers. It's an underground company. I don't know what they needed the goop for, but you know the gist. Some bad guys doing bad things. She paused, allowing the blonde and brunette to talk amongst themselves. This was quickly ended by Black Cat speaking to them again. They go by the name of Hidden Tech. I could help you find their base of operations, she said smugly as Miles closely eyed her. Actually, we could use the help. With these few words, Miles stared at his friend, not knowing what the boy was thinking. Wait, Miss Cat. Could you give me and my friend here a moment? Black Cat just gave a shrug at what Miles had said, seeing as she couldn't get out in the first place. What are you doing? Miles said silently as they both looked away from the thief behind them. What do you mean? Naruto crossed his arms before speaking. She could really help if she knows where they are. And we could have more information on these people. The blonde said as silently as he could. Miles then looked to his friend and Tenten Black Cat behind him, weighing the options that they had. Okay, fine. But like you do with most people you don't trust, we need to keep an eye on her, the boy said before turning away from the whispered mill. The masked brunette was followed by the blonde as he untied the girl. You're gonna take us to this Hidden Tech. But after all of this is over, you're going to jail. Miles said this with a serious tone, making Black Cat give a smirk. The girl stood up as she felt her wrist and suit also stretching from being up against the wall. If you say so, Spider. The white-haired girl moved to the edge of the building as she took a breath in of New York. She took slight notice to Naruto and Miles, who still were eyeing her closely, as she just waved to them before jumping away. Miles would have rushed at her if Naruto hadn't stopped him. The black-haired boy would have asked why he had stopped him until his silent question was answered by Black Cat waving at them from another building. Well, guess we should get going, Miles said as Naruto nodded to him. Both would jump off the building, one swing and the other running on the side of the building. It took only a few seconds for Black Cat to rush after them and start leading the two. The group almost made their way through the entire city until they stopped at a dock. The dock had multiple crates around it, as well as some spread out cranes and warehouses. As the three looked around, there didn't seem to be any sign of some company or organization being here. You sure they're here? Said Miles, absently looking for anything as a clue, as Naruto stayed silent, looking at the place with his ready Sharingan. Black Cat shrugged at the question as she calmly walked towards a seemingly random warehouse. I still don't think we can trust her. Naruto stopped for a bit, still watching the girl, before turning to his friend. Miles, I know we don't trust villains and criminals often, but she is the only lead. We have to figure out what's going on. The Rhino and Goop suddenly appearing have to be connected with this organization. And as far as we know, she is our best shot. After saying this, the blonde walked off, leaving Miles to sigh and walk after the two. When they go inside, the heroes were his with a wave of deja vu. Almost as if they had been here before. Well, you two. I showed you where to find your clues. I'm out of here. See ya later, Tiger. The girl said, also giving a wave as she threw what seemed to be a pellet at Naruto, who didn't have the time to react. Miles jumped aside, but even he wasn't able to grab Black Cat before smoke filled the room. For all the two knew, Black Cat was already gone as they heard footsteps rushing out of the room. Frantic coughs came from Miles as he tried to move the smoke out the way. Damn. You really need. A cough interrupted him before he could say the rest, then he launched himself and Naruto out of the smoke. You really need to figure out how not to get tricked by her. The blonde quickly answered, inspecting where the girl had been. It wasn't a trick. She knew we were gonna turn her in. Miles walked beside Naruto before looking to what he was looking at. Naruto grabbed the capsule the thief left and stared constantly. Man, sometimes I really don't understand women. The blonde took off a note from the capsule after destroying said container. When the boy walked back to his friend, both looked at the note, one in surprise, the other with a small smile. She gave you her number. Miles quickly shouted, looking to Naruto, then back to the note, then back to Naruto. Yep. Dude. The black-haired boy responded, still surprised. Why? The blonde gave a shrug before speaking and pocketing the note, now showing a smirk. He hadn't thought she would do that, but a chance for him to talk with the girl would be great. The boy quickly looked back to his friend to speak. Well, obviously I don't know. But hey, I'm doing something right, Naruto said as he started to look around the warehouse, finally realizing why the place was so familiar. So we aren't gonna chase her? Miles asked, a bit confused and ready to run after the girl. The blonde just shook his head to respond before walking to what he thought was the lights. Why? As the boy flipped the switch, the light slowly came on, flickering a bit in the darkness. Because I already have a clone doing it. Plus we need to be here to figure out what's going on with this new organization. The blonde answered as he turned around, getting a better look at the place. What the heroes saw was an almost empty hideout. There were other names for a place like this, but hideout and lab seemed to be the best terms. It was almost just like the first lab they had found when Doc Ock almost ambushed them. But this place was way bigger and there wasn't a piece of tech in sight. Aside from the large control panel in the middle of the place. Just like the other secret labs, one had tons of cages, almost all of them empty. Wow. Miles silently exclaimed. Naruto moved next to the boy before eyeing almost every part of the place. Yeah, this place is just like the other lab, the blonde said before walking to the control center. Do you think that means Doc Ock was working for Hidden Tech? The spider-clad boy asked before weaving himself above and next to his friend. Maybe. But if anything, she probably was a higher up. Like she was with Kingpin. Naruto pressed a random button on the panel as he said this, getting a quick reaction. Unlike with the lights, a halo graphic screen appeared in front of the two as they closely looked to it. The screen was filled with different files, most not having anything to do with the Rhino. Or the Black Goop for that matter. As the two looked through each file, they found information on portal tech as well as weapons files, DNA splicing files, and other files. But no matter where they searched, they couldn't find anything on any plans. The best they could find was information on different experiments that had been done almost many years ago. The two could only guess that maybe they were using their past information to come up with something somehow, but that was it. No real evidence on anything important. So we got nothing, Miles stated with annoyance in his voice as he dropped from the web. What are we gonna do? This organization obviously has some sort of plan. But of course it's not here. The brunette turned to his friend, his annoyance still rising, until Naruto put his hand on his shoulder. It's gonna be fine. If anything, a second base like this means there are more out there. So we just have to find them. After the blonde said this, he jumped back ready to get into a bed. The two began to walk out before steps from behind them could be heard. Unknown to the two, one of the cell doors had opened silently while they had been looking for information. When the two looked at what was making the noise, they were met with a robot-looking mech. It was double the height of Naruto and had a flat look to it. It almost shined with a blue glow as its mechanical limbs stretched out in their bulk. What is that? Miles asked before he was rushed at by the robot. The robot started to carry the boy around, ramming into anything it could. I don't know. But it doesn't seem to be friendly, Naruto shouted before leaping after his friend. The whiskered boy quickly jumped up, throwing multiple kuni at the robot before it stopped and rushed at him. The boy braced himself for a hit. When it made contact with his body, the blonde pushed back, keeping himself steady and on the ground. Trying to help out, Miles grabs hold of the robot with webs, somewhat holding it back. Or so he thought. This was quickly changed when the robot stopped pushing Naruto to grab the spider-clad boy's webs and throw him away. Then it looked back at Naruto and tried to stomp on him, its jet-furring leg propelling itself down. The blonde grabbed hold onto it before pushing it up and sliding away. The boy went through multiple hand signs, concentrating on his chakra. Surprisingly, Miles came out of nowhere already launching himself at the robot. When the boy landed on it, he zapped it with blue electricity coming from his palms. The attack roared out around the robot as it started to glitch, only to fling Miles away. Responding quick on his feet, the boy turned invisible as Naruto launched himself at the mech-like machine. The blonde finally finished his hand signs as he slapped the ground. The earth loudly roared a bit before water rushed up from under it. The floor began to crack as more water burst to life. This water took the form of a dragon, making Naruto yell out its name. Water style. Water dragon jutsu, he said as the attack rushed at the assailant. The robot had no time to move as it was blown out of the area with the attack. After a few seconds of waiting for the machine to show itself, the heroes decided it hadn't survived the attack. As the two stood next to each other, they didn't speak, only trying to figure out more about this place. So they really don't want us searching for them, Naruto said, decided to break the silence. Miles just crossed his arms, sighing a bit after. Well, we always figure this stuff out. I mean, we are the vigilantes of New York, the brunette said, smiling under his mask. Naruto just gave a quick nod before the two rushed off. The blonde threw one of his chained kuni before swinging away. It only took a few seconds for Miles to follow the boy, still having tons of questions under his mask. Time skip. Naruto and Miles sat in class closely listening to the teacher's lecture. After a few minutes, a mark could be heard from the door, gaining the attention of all in class except Naruto. The blonde had been writing something down while in thought, quickly thinking on what him and Miles had learned last night. First, Doc Ock died while trying to lead us into a trap. Then the rhino appears out of nowhere to try and attack us. New villains aren't a problem, but the tech on his exoskeleton was similar to the one on the capsule, meaning he could be connected to this hidden tech. And if Doc Ock knew where the capsule was in the first place, she must have been connected as well. This is all getting too complex. Something is going on, and it obviously came from the ashes of Ultramex. Naruto sighed before looking up to the front of the class, realizing he had zoned out. When he looked up, he saw a new student. It was a girl of Korean descent. Her black hair was in bangs as her uniform seemed to be quickly and sloppily put together. The blonde noticed how everyone seemed to stare entranced at the new student. He didn't notice that his friend was giving the same stare as the rest of the class. The teacher walked next to the girl to help introduce her, while also seeming as if he would rather be somewhere else. This is our new student. Please introduce yourself and then find a free seat. The girl quickly bowed in response before shooting back up just as fast. I'm Cindy Moon. Nice to meet you all. Most of the boys were unresponsive as their brains short-circuited. Miles was one of these boys, while Naruto was not. The girl even had some of the other ladies in her class queuing from the cuteness. The black-haired girl quickly moved to sit down, which ironically happened to be next to Miles. After everyone had calmed, the teacher went back to his lecture, still seemingly bored from everything. Naruto went back to think, but now more aware of his thoughts and the people around him. After a few minutes, he could hear his friend hitting it off with the new student. The blonde hadn't realized the two started to look at him while he was writing. Or that's what it looked like. Really, the blonde had been aware of the whole room, and Miles knew this for a fact. Naruto quickly closed his eyes, going deeper into his own mind. So, how is all this connected? Why do they want the goop? The boy was interrupted by a poke to his side from his friend. Naruto opened his eyes, seeing Miles poke him again. When the boy realized his friend looked at him, said boy grinned and started to whisper to the blonde. Hey Naruto. The blonde only raised his eyebrow, questioning the black-haired teen and waiting for him to go on. What are you doing for the weekend? Naruto sighed a bit before responding. He had a lot to do for the weekend. He really wanted to figure out what this secret company is doing. They made the rhino, for crying out loud. But other than that, he was going to stay with his mom, since when he started this school he was forced to stay in the dorms on weekdays. Which really didn't make sense sometimes. Naruto stopped his thoughts to look back at his friend and then to look at the girl who was smiling behind him. It was clear the boy had gotten his first crush, but even with that, why would he want to be a third wheel? The blonde quickly sighed before speaking up. No. I'm not doing anything much. Why? Miles only looked back a short second, which was caught by the boy's friend but not by anyone else, before whispering to the blonde. Well, I want to go somewhere with my friend. Naruto shake his head before giving a small smile. You want me to be your wingman, don't you? The black-haired boy blinked for a second in surprise before shaking his head. No. You see, Cindy is not just new to the school but new to the city. I want to help her have some fun. And it would be better as a group than just me. Naruto just gave a slight grin before speaking to his friend. Sure. That's what you're trying to do. Miles just scowled, not trying to deny what his friend was implying, feeling like it wouldn't change what the blonde would say. After the conversation ended, Naruto went back into his own thoughts, unknowingly skipping through the class lecture. When the blonde had finally got his senses, he awoke after half an hour had passed. His black-haired friend had been picking him before the boy suddenly shot up. Stop that. Miles gave a sly grin in response before talking. You were out of it, so I decided to mess with you. The boy then turned behind himself, making Naruto confused. This confusion ended as quickly as it started, as when the boy moved slightly he saw who his friend had been looking at. Then he remembered what he had promised to help his friend with before giving a grin. He needed a break from thinking about hero stuff anyway. So if they were ending Friday with fun through the city, he was glad to help. Okay, so where are we going first? Miles turned back with a surprised look. I didn't think you would actually come. Thought you just said that to get me off your back. The boy said quickly, slightly moving his hand to scratch the back of his head. When have I ever done something like that? It's like my own best friend doesn't know me. Naruto said while crossing his arms and giving a fake appalled look. The blonde's friend looked ready to go on a rant about how the boy had done the same sort of thing multiple times. But before said boy could go on said rant, the blonde had put his hand out, seeing what his friend was going to do. No, you can't start listing. Miles gave a smirk before the two friends walked over to the new student. Time skip. The three arrived at the far side of New York, close to the seaboard. Naruto, Miles, and Cindy stared at the amusement park in front of them for a few seconds before the two black-haired friends rushed inside. This left the blonde to shake his head with a grin before rushing after them. First thing the three did was rush to all the games, as Naruto won almost all of them. This ended up with the blonde and his friend competing however they could, leaving the girl to laugh and watch every challenge they had. After a while, the three were found still walking about the park. Man, haven't had fun like that in a while. Naruto said, laughing hysterically. His friend was unable to respond, as when the blonde looked to him, the boy was holding tons of plushies. This only made the blonde laugh more. Well, seems like he has his hands full. Cindy responded for Miles as the three kept walking. Naruto looked to the two, then smiled before he would speak again. So Cindy. The girl responded with a turn to the only blonde in the group and a small smile. You just got here, right? Where are you from? Cindy's face dropped for a second before a smile came back on her face. This didn't go unnoticed by Naruto, who filed the action away for latter. The boy didn't notice as he unconsciously watched the girl closely before she began to talk again. Well, I'm from. Cindy paused once more as if she was trying to come up with something to say, which only made Naruto even more suspicious of the girl. I moved here from Texas. The blonde put up his usual friendly mask, the same one when he was dealing with bullies back in his old schools. No one could ever tell the difference anyway. The face was just set automatically for the boy for whenever he didn't trust someone. And how it took the girl that long to answer was a bit suspicious to the blonde. Hey Miles, I'ma help you with these and win some more stuff for the lady of the group. Could you get us some snacks? The black-haired boy quickly looked at the blonde while said blonde took the plushies from him. Wait, what? Naruto didn't respond as he reluctantly walked off with the girl. 2 seconds later, after the blonde and black-haired girl were gone, another Naruto appeared beside Miles, who had a scowl. Naruto pointed to himself and said 2 words. Shadow clone. The black-haired boy only sighed before walking with the blonde clone. A few seconds later and the two sat down at a bench. So why did you need to talk? Miles said, noticeably annoyed but not at the blonde clone. Said clone took a few minutes before responding to his friend. After the blonde was done thinking, he finally began to speak. I don't trust Cindy. Miles just looked to his friend a bit confused, the scowl once on his face gone. The silence between the two gave way for the amusement park's noise to surround them. The different buzzes and series from games. the screams from rides, and even the bored sighs that were only heard by the Naruto clone. What do you mean you don't trust her? Miles said, letting anger, annoyance and confusion slip out of his voice. All I'm saying is to keep an eye on her. The black-haired boy crossed his arms before standing up. I know for a fact that she isn't. Miles stopped before he could go on. He didn't want to end up losing a friend just because of one argument. Why do you think we can't trust her? The boy said, rethinking the way he was acting before. The blonde and black-haired boy looked at each other for a bit before the clone got up and walked next to his friend. I'm not saying she can't be trusted. It's just she's hiding something. While usually I would just write it off as her own business, a lot of weird stuff has been going on this week. The blonde put his hands in his pockets before going on and starting to walk, causing Miles to follow him. And a new transfer student that doesn't know where she is from is just one part of it. The two stopped again, with the clone thinking on what else to say, making the boy wait. Another second later and the blonde sighed before handing Miles a bag of different snacks. As I was saying, boss just wants you to keep your head on straight. Watch out for anything. Before the black-haired boy could ask for any more information, the clone had disappeared, leaving Miles to try and find the real blonde himself. POV switch. Naruto sat down with Cindy, looking up at the sky clearly in his thoughts. A few seconds later, and memories formed, the clone the blonde sent to Miles came back. Man, he really does have it bad for the girl. Hopefully I'm wrong in my suspicions. The boy looked at his side, just about ready to go home. But with how everything was going for him, it probably would be best to get what little information he could out of the girl. But really, he didn't think he could get anything out of Cindy outright. He only caught her slip up because he was trained by Kiryu to catch little things like that. Mainly because the pervert had tried to make him one of his information gatherers. Wasn't really the blondie's thing, but some of said training stuck, but that didn't mean the boy was an interrogator. Okay, well, technically he was, but he didn't want to do that to the seemingly innocent girl, went against his code. Naruto sighed before jolting up, surprising the black-haired girl. We should get Miles, he probably doesn't know where we are. Cindy just have a nut, making the blonde raise his eyebrow. You don't talk much, do you? The blonde waited for an answer, but the only thing that came was a smile. Naruto sighed before the girl stood up. Why don't you talk much? Cindy seemingly paused before answering. Then again, the blonde wouldn't be able to tell even if she did pause. Well, you and Miles have probably known each other for a long time. I don't want to intrude any. The girl's friendly smile came back full force, somewhat convincing Naruto. Well, the boy said quietly before scratching the back of his head. You don't need to be so to yourself. I'm sure that Miles wants to be your friend. Naruto turned to the girl, giving one of his signature grins. And I'm here for you too. Cindy didn't respond, she only gave a blush before the two went off to find Miles. As the two walked, they didn't pay attention to multiple people running past them. However, more and more people rushed by them, eventually some ran into them. Hey, watch it. This came from a man who had ran into Naruto before, complete running past the two with fear in his eyes. What's his problem? Naruto turned to Cindy, realizing she was looking at what the man had been running from. The blonde then turned to whatever had the girl's attention before his eyes had widened, then narrowed. The two saw a man made of lightning. Or maybe electricity. Either way, said man had been using his abilities to extend his external power into the rides of the amusement park. He had been throwing around rides and balls of electricity at a figure inside of a spider costume. Obviously the new spider, like Hiro or Miles. Naruto grabbed Cindy's arm before running off, dragging her away from the fight. We got to get out of here. After this was said, the girl got out of her trance as she started to run on her own. The girl then ran past the blonde, leaving him confused. Naruto looked at the figure of the running girl, seeing her slowly disappear into the distance. She's fast. The boy turned back to who he knew was his friend dealing with a new villain. Naruto gave a sigh before running towards the villain. I don't want to leave her, but need to help Miles. The boy tapped the seal on his neck that replaced his clothes with his hero costume. Naruto's clothes were replaced by his shinobi outfit in an instant. The blonde then stopped before throwing a chained kuni near a ride, propelling himself next to his friend. Yo, Miles. What's going on? The spider-cladded boy turned his head for a second before a bolt of yellow lightning separated the two. Naruto quickly landed before teleporting next to Miles. Both then swung up to get closer to the rampaging energy man. Well, Sparky here started a rampage. The boy quickly dodged another stream of electricity before the man started to rush at them, propelling himself above the two. But I think it was provoked. Naruto swung closer to his friend before speaking. Why do you say that? The two suddenly looked up as one of them were met with a ball of energy while the other was hit with an empty roller coaster. Naruto flew back into a wall as he felt the currents of electricity go through him. When the shock stopped, the blonde was able to get up and see his friend throw a ride that was thrown at him away. Just a hunch. Miles had annoyance wafting off of his voice. The two then looked at the man who was flying away slowly but nevertheless getting away from the heroes. We got to get him contained somehow. Miles jumped up and swung after the man before his friend had ran after him. What do you have in mind? Naruto said before running on a roller coaster, catching up with the man and his friend. The blonde jumped away from the coaster before swinging beside Spider-Man. Well, I could use you know. Naruto gave a smirk before jumping on the floor. I'll make sure to give you some leeway and wrangle him someplace where you can try out your move. Miles gave a nod before swinging off. This left the blonde to go through hand signs. When the boy stopped, multiple earth shards shot up into the air, directly hitting their Sparky adversary. The man turned to where the attack came from and only gave a stare. You. The boy paused a bit hearing the man speak. This wasn't something he was expecting to happen, but then again this might be good. Hey, spark plug. You mind not rampaging? The man growled before flying directly at the blonde. You're the reason they made me. A roar came from the man's would-be mouth as Naruto saw him gain speed. The boy backed up a bit, noting what the man had said and saving it for later. They made me like this because of you. Naruto began to run as the electric-like man had began to chase him. The blonde dived through a popcorn stand before jumping over a table and looking behind himself. A few seconds later, the two objects were completely destroyed by the man, making Naruto run faster. The boy jumped through many obstacles trying to outrun his chaser, but the man wasn't stopped by an officer. Damn, why did it have to be electricity? I got nothing that can deal with the electricity. Sure, Earth can protect me from it, but it ain't like I can hit him with it. Another roar came from the man before Naruto threw up a chained kuni to swing into a nearby roller coaster. When the blonde landed and looked around, he saw passengers still on the ride. The conductor must have fled, leaving them stuck. Damn. Naruto looked up after saying this, seeing his the enraged villain rushing at him again. The man crashed through the ride, flying off into the distance after he saw a falling sage. Naruto woke up to screams of terror as he was at the bottom of the roller coaster. Most of the tracks had been destroyed, and from what he could see there were 3 coasters to stop. The boy slowly got up, feeling in his back. Hirama. Naruto got a mental response from the fox before his body was flooded with red chakra. The chakra disappeared before the blonde went through hand signs. Halfway through, the boy ran to the first coaster he saw. Said ride was on its way to falling off the tracks with the passengers inside. It's okay. I'm coming. After this was said, the boy finished the hand signs, causing an earth pillar to rise from ground, stopping the coaster from falling. With no time to waste, the boy jumped away from the people he had saved, landing on a different part of the ride. As he ran on the tracks, he braces himself to get hit by another coaster, ready to stop it. Naruto did a half-hand sign before covering the rail in flames. After the flames were gone, Naruto began to bend the tracks that ended abruptly up to allow him something to push off of when stopping this coaster. The screams grew as the ride came closer. Eventually, the cars were right in front of him before the blonde fully braved himself. The masked boy held his arms out, ready at every point of his body. The coaster crashed right into the blonde as he allowed it to carry him. The blonde dragged his feet on the rails, slowing it down. When it stopped, Naruto gave a sigh, the glow from the light pole accenting his eyes. The blonde then moved to go after the last car with suspense. He had to make it or people would die, the boy thought, starting to go at a shinobi-like speed. Naruto then nosedived off the track, eyeing the last coaster, ready to stop it with anything he had. However, before he could make hand signs, a bolt of electricity came right at him. Damn it, the boy said as the attack launched him out of the way into a food stand. Naruto gave a small growl, holding his head as he got up. The boys had quickly turned up, anticipating what would happen to the roller coaster and the people inside. But when he had looked up, the blonde saw webs that wrapped around the ride that were attached to a figure. Before, the boy would have thought it was Miles, but the figure was feminine in stature. Said girl wasn't wearing a flashy suit either. It seemed more to be a suit made from the very webs she shot to catch the passengers of the collapsing ride. Thoughts quickly ran through Naruto's head. Who is she was the main question he was asking. The blonde threw up a chained kuni before pulling himself to the unknown girl. Hey, what are you doing? The girl, classed in only webs, gave a wink before speaking to the blonde. I'm helping you out. 2 spiders are better than 1. Speaking of spiders, Naruto said while quickly turning looking for his friend. Listen up. I'll figure you out later. The shinobi crossed his arms before walking to the new spider-like hero. But right now we have to lead Sparky to Spider-Man. The girl gave a nod and jumped off the ride, surprising the boy in how fast she reacted. I've never seen someone like her before. She has to be new. But she doesn't act like it. Naruto jumped down in the same fashion, only the boy was running on the side of the ride while the girl was swinging toward their new villain. The blonde ran after the black-haired girl while tapping the comm in his ear. Miles. A few seconds of silence was then accented by an answer that only Naruto could hear. What's up? The boy didn't notice as a relieved sigh came from his mouth before he answered his friend. Naruto then jumped off the roller coaster to launch a chained kuni to another ride, pulling himself up. You ready yet? A quick answer of yes came from the other hero, making the blonde grin. Good. Naruto quickly tried to remember what else he needed to tell his friend before looking at the new hero who had just shot multiple webs at the electric man. Oh yeah. We got some help too. What? Who was what? Miles said, confusion in his voice as he asked. That doesn't matter right now. We will let our friend to you. Naruto turned off the comm after this, focusing on the man still sending out the electricity. With a form of seriousness, Sage pulled out a separate chained kuni. He then threw it opposite of the first, allowing him to slingshot himself at the villain. The boy then gave a masked grin as he held out his hand behind him. Hey Electro. The man made of energy turned as he floated. The sharp shift in posture made strands of electricity fly past the hero. That's actually a good name for you, Sparky. In response, the man growled as he ignored the heroine behind him. Electro rushed at Naruto like many times before, only this time charging electricity into his hand. Naruto gave a grin as a wave of victory rushed through his body. The blonde then focused his chakra just like has done many times at this point. Chakra rushed into the boy's hand, the blue energy almost glowing as it began to form. The same energy then began to spiral out of his hand, creating an orb. The maelstrom of power grew in size to about a basketball as Electro was still making his way towards Naruto. Finally, when the man was right on top of the blonde, he acted. The spiraling energy was slammed into the man by Naruto, who still had a grin under his mask, unseen by the villain. As the man was sent flying, webs were thrown around him by what the blonde deemed a spider girl. When the man landed, rage grew throughout his body, not paying attention as his electricity destroyed the webs that were on him. He also hadn't noticed a spider suit-cladded boy behind him. Miles acted just as quickly, putting both of his hands on Electro before he would start absorbing his energy. Electro struggled to get the boy, but it was too late as he passed out from loss of energy. Not long after, Naruto and the mystery hero landed next to Miles. With a blush and some surprise, the fully masked boy got at the heroine. So, this is the help. Miles quickly stopped staring after realizing he was doing so, which was only noticed by Naruto. Yep. And speaking on that, the blonde said, turning towards the girl of the group. Who are you? The black-haired heroine turned slightly in thought, making the two boys wait. After a few seconds, a grin grew on her masked face as she turned back to the heroes. Call me Silk. Naruto and Miles turned to each other, still thinking in suspicion about the girl. In the short time they looked towards each other, both were already thinking one just of who the girl could be, and whether she was a threat or not. Well, Naruto was as if he was his training to do so. When they turned back, they both gave a smile. Welcome to New York. Always glad to have a new hero. The girl smiled back before swinging off, leaving the two alone. So you gonna take our friend here to jail or should I? Miles said, crossing his arms. Man, you seem mad at me in such a quick turn in personality as well. Miles had a blank stare on his face that his friend couldn't see but nevertheless could sense. You left me in the middle of an amusement park to get attacked by an electric villain. Excuse me if I'm a bit mad. The blonde just put his hands up in response. Sorry. What happened again? Miles just shook his head, feeling bad for his outburst. No, it's not your fault. Naruto walked next to Miles, patting his back a bit before speaking to him. I'll take Sparky to the raft. You go home. You need a break after today. The boy's friend just gave a nod before swinging off, leaving the blondie to himself. Naruto gave a sigh before removing his mask. The blonde had turned to electro his Reno Sharingan ablaze. The boy had been tired of keeping up his hero mask for too long. Sure, he let go of the mask most of the time with Miles when they were just by themselves. But as a hero, he had been taking more of Peter's personality with how he has been. Less of the serious ninja and more of Joe cracking web slinger. Either way, it was a mask. A mask to keep his old friend's memories and heroics alive. It was really hypocritical for him to call out his friend's change in personality when he acts differently in his hero suit every day. Hell, sometimes he wasn't sure if he was himself. The hyperactivity knuckle-headed ninja was practically gone. Well, not gone, just more concealed is all. He never acted how he used to unless it was with Miles's mom, Black Cat, or even his friends from other dimensions. And even then, only sometimes did he let them see the pain he had been through in his original dimension. But that didn't matter much now. They knew who he was, they knew what he was. And they knew how he acted. Well, he wasn't acting like his shinobi self, that is. Naruto began to walk towards the downed villain. He wanted. No. Need to figure out why all this shit is going on. And why now. Usually he wouldn't do something like this. The blonde crouched towards the man as his red eyes with purple markings in them began to stare down the one his attention was on. But sometimes things didn't need a hero's touch. Sometimes they needed a shinobi skills. Naruto grabbed the man's head, feeling and seeing the electricity his body was made up of in a faint state. The blonde closed one of his eyes before the other started to leak blood. Tsukiyomi. The short word the boy uttered would be accented by a flux of chakra and energy. A few seconds later and the two were taken into the Genjutsu world of Tsukiyomi. Naruto shifted said Genjutsu to his liking. While in the past he wasn't able to use Genjutsu, especially not high-level ones like this, the Reno Sharingan made it easy to do these things. The blonde warped the place once more, getting a pull on his mind from his tenant. Looking to his shoulder, Naruto saw the one and only nine-tailed beast on his shoulder in a small form. Hey Kurama. What's up? The blonde said with a grin, not bothering to put on his serious or jokester act on leaving himself to be himself. Finally, I hate when you have those masks on. Acting serious is something I've never known you forget. The fox put his head down, laying it as if he was ready to sleep again. Naruto gave an annoyed look that he only used with Kurama. Well, you big fur ball. It's hard keeping a mask like that up for a long time. You know how hard it is for me to stay like that in school. I'm lucky I can even put it down when talking to Miles or anyone for that matter. The blonde huffed a bit after getting his feelings off his chest about his so-called mask. It's better than you being dense, Kurama silently said, somewhat laughing to himself. I heard that. Both laughed for a bit before silence would once again cover the Genjutsu world. Isn't it funny how your old mask became the real you in this world? Or, well, a mix of your real self and your mask anyway. Naruto just waved what his friend had set off, not wanting him to go in full detail. At least this place changed, you can't. How you wanted to be with your mask is actually you in this world. And how you were before is now the mask. The two just smiled at each other, the blonde remembering his past. Usually any other time he wouldn't want to remember. Hell, if he thought more on his old friends, then some bad memories would come back. But talking about how he had changed with Kurama always seemed a bit less sad than his other memories. So, what's with the sleeping man in your Genjutsu? Kurama said, unknowingly getting Naruto out of his thoughts. Oh yeah. This guy is the guy who is gonna give me my answers. When the boy finished talking, his shinobi self took over his mask back in full force. Well, I'll leave you to it. I got some sleep to catch up on. See ya, kid. The fox disappeared in the same style he appeared. With no trace, not even his huge chakra signature was a factor in the genjutsu. After a few seconds, the blonde moved to wake up the now chained villain. The boy gave one snap and the man flared up to life, his electric power still being docile in the real world. "What the?" he said, looking frantically around the darkened place. The only thing he could see was Naruto in his hero suit but with no mask. Tai Boy had a face of seriousness on him, not known to be a mask by the villain. "Don't tell me you're Sage, kid." "Fire Sage," Naruto said quietly, stepping towards the man. "But sure, I'm known as Sage as well." "It won't matter." The boy bent down next to the man, his blank face unnerving the man a bit. "You won't remember this anyway." Naruto straightens up before stepping back a bit. "So tell about how you were turned like this. And who turned you like this?" The man just growled and shouted at the boy. "Why would I tell you when you're the reason they made me like this? You're the reason. And I will make sure when I'm out of here to kill you for that." Naruto gave a small sigh, not expecting to have to use the genjutsu that fast. The blonde then looked directly at the villain, wanting to wait a bit before doing what he thought needed to be done. "Look, I don't care for any of that. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot." "Fuck," the man said with malice laced in his voice. "Listen up. The boy paused, losing his mask for a half second, realizing he didn't have anything to call the man. "What should I call you?" The man was silent for the first time in the few seconds he had been conscious. "I don't need you knowing my real name. What did you call me before?" "Oh yeah, Electro." The man looked up to the blonde with a grin reminiscent of some other villains the boy had dealt with in the past. "Call me Electro." Naruto gave a silent nod, recognizing the man's villain name. "Anyway, I'm not telling you shit," the man said, interrupting the boy. "You may have been kinda kid, but god, you're annoying. And seriously, the Great Fire Sage is some kid. Some fucking snot-nosed teen, I mean, come on." Those were the last words the man could say before Naruto snapped his fingers in response. The snappy echoed through the genjutsu as Electro exploded in response. "Man, I really didn't want to use this part of the genjutsu. But he's being difficult." Naruto brought up his head again as his red accented by purple eyes glowed. Note: his Reno Sharingan is Tia Sharingan and a Renikin, it's both combined, which is why it's red mixed with purple instead of one of both. And note: Naruto snapped again, recreating Electra's consciousness in the genjutsu. The man reappeared, breathing heavily and entranced by pain. "Welcome back. Gonna talk now," the blonde said, not giving the male time to think. The man just looked up before another snap erased him. In the same fashion he was destroyed, the blonde brought him back. This time he reacted by throwing up his lunch. Naruto didn't know how that was possible in a genjutsu, but still. "How about now?" the boy said, ready to erase the man again in the same painful fashion, no matter if he had the heart for it or not. He knew as a shinobi he needed to do the hard things. That never changed, and it wouldn't change for as long as he lived. Sure, he didn't kill. But with all that has happened, interrogation was needed. "Ready now?" he asked again. "Okay, I'll talk," Electro quickly responded to the boy, not wanting to disappear again. He didn't want that feeling of disappearance, or was it death? Whatever it was, he never wanted to feel that pain again. The man began to speak about what happened to him. Naruto stood and listened to every detail, not wanting to miss the slightest bit of detail. Electro explained all about how he was made. He was just a simple janitor for Hidden Tech, who Naruto already had suspected were the ones that made him. Seemed like they were at the front of everything so far. Doc Ock going for the black goop. The Rhino's rampage. Hiring Black Cat to steal the goop from his dorm. And now Electran's rampage. The man kept going in his speech, explaining how they took him in for experiments and how they were creating more super-powered individuals. Unfortunately, Electro couldn't remember much about where he was held or about his fellow experiments. All he remembered was what they had done to him and how he had escaped. After he had gotten the information he needed, Naruto erased Electra's memories of the genjutsu before taking him to the raft.
Thank you guys for watching the video, and I hope you will go to my other videos and watch those, like what if Naruto was in Adventure Time, or a later one that's going to be coming out, what if Naruto had fused with Kurama, which I'm pretty sure I will be making sure that comes out next week. So comment to help me make new videos, or just a comment or whatever. If you like the video a lot, please like the video. Well, press the like button. And if you're new, please subscribe, because that will help me out and grow my channel. And share this video with others. You never know, they might like what is as well. Without further ado, All Kage out.